Hello and welcome to another random fandom video. Today I am going to show you a little bit about a hobby of mine, which is painting miniatures. And this is something that I have painted for role-playing games for quite some time now. And I just wanted to start by showing you some of the essentials that you will need to get started with the mini painting. This is a basic setup. You can get as much or as little of this to begin with as you would like. So first off, probably most importantly, the brushes. If you can see, I've got 3 brushes here. These are the 3 sizes that I most use. There's a detail brush, and then in the center is a slightly smaller fine detail, and then on the end is an even smaller brush that you can use for the ultra fine details. There are a lot of other brushes out there that have their uses as well, but these are the 3 sizes that you're going to be using the most. The 2 blue brushes are actually from Citadel, which is a company that specializes in miniatures. They have the Warhammer series, and they also make a ton of accessories that you can use for your painting, including paints and other goodies. Next, of course, when you paint, you are going to need some clean water. You'll need, if you are doing metal painting, you're going to need some primer. That's what that is. Other items, this is not essential, but something to mix paint in. I like these little plastic egg cups that you can get at any hobby store. You can use a white paint or white palette. I've got one of those back there. You can also just use, just a white plate. Works just as well. Just something that is going to be non-porous. So no paper, something hard, plastic, porcelain. The paints that we use, and I'll show you here. This particular paint pot comes from another company called Reaper. Reaper and Citadel are 2 of the major companies in this particular category of hobbies. The paint should be acrylic, and it should be a very well mixed sheer sort of paint. So you don't want anything that's going to be too thick, because you use very thin kinds of painting techniques when you're painting. This is the Citadel version of the paint pots. You can see I've got a variety of colors here. Again, you might want to just start with some basics. You can always mix and match, but it's also fun to collect paint, and as you can see, I've done quite a bit of that. Other things to keep in mind before you get started, you're going to want to have some paper towels. You're going to want to have a dropper or 2. I've put some water in here. This is to help you mostly with the paints. If you have a paint that's a little thick or needs to be thinned out, or you want to make a glaze, you'll use the dropper to control how much water you put in. You'll need some glue. This is just simple super glue. And last but of course not least, the miniatures. And this is the mini I'm going to be working on today. I'll show you her a little bit more in just a moment. When you get started, one of the first things you want to do is you want to clean up the mini. If you need to shave off any ends, anything that was an imperfection from when they cast the mini, you'll want to do that with some sandpaper and some fine files. Just get everything nice and smooth. This particular mini is already nice and smooth. I didn't have to do really much work on her at all to get her this way. She is a plastic cast, you'll probably, if you use metal, you'll be having to do more of that fine shaving. And then once you have it cleaned up, then the next step is to put it on some kind of material that you can use to keep it steady while you're painting. I have a couple of things to show. You can use an empty paint pot. You can use a large nail. Just something that you can take in hand and spin any direction that you want to, and be able to take multiple approaches to your mini. I am actually going to try with my new one here. Again, Citadel product. This is a handle that you put the mini in. You can see I've already put the base on the mini. This black base did not come with this particular figure. I glued it on, and that was so that I could put her in the base handle and try that. Haven't used this handle before, so I'm excited to see how it works. Okay, so she is firmly attached, and I just wanted to give you a little close-up. This is an Elven Cleric, is what she is meant to be. And just want to see if you can just kind of see some of the details. Long flowing dress and a cloak, a couple of pouches. She's fairly simple, really. But she has some nice layers to her clothing, and it's always something that I have fun doing, is to do the layering on cloth. That's the technique that I'm going to try and show you today, over the next couple of videos actually, is like a layering as opposed to using inks more. I'll show you a little bit about inks in another video, but right now I just want to show you the base coat. So when you start with a mini with this kind of a detail, when you're layering, if you think about it, when you're looking at folds of cloth or even shadows on a face, you are seeing darker further into the creases, into the shades, and then it gets lighter as it gets more towards the tips of the folds, or the pleats of the folds. So what I'm going to do is I am going to start with a base color, which is going to be actually darker than the final result. This is my hope, at any rate. So I am going to just get a start here with her, and I will let you know what I'm doing as I go, just a little bit. Also, with a finely detailed type of a mini, you want to start with the innermost parts of the miniature and work your way out. That way, if you need to repair things, you need to fix boo-boos, mistakes that you make, you can more easily do that. So that often means starting with the face. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to use, for this, my fine detail brush. And what you want to do is just wet it a little bit. Make sure it's got a nice tip on it. You can do that with your tongue. I usually do lick my brushes. I know it's a bad habit, but it's a nice way to keep it nice and sharp while you're painting. Okay, so here we go. And you don't need a lot on the brush, just a little bit, and then just start. And I'm using a particular flesh shade that is called Fair Maiden. I decided, because the box says that she is an elf, that I would take a cue from the Peter Jackson movies and make her very much a pale elf along the lines of, you know, say Cate Blanchett, Galadriel. So I'm going to start with a very fine, light flesh tone. So for her hair, again, we're going to do a layering technique. So what I want to do, I believe, even though she's going to be blonde, I'm going to start with a darker tone underneath. And I think I'm just going to stick with the fine detail brush. She does look like she might have a little flower in her hair. I haven't decided what to do with that just yet. So now you notice it's starting to sink into the crevices a little bit. That's okay, but what that means is that my brush is a little too wet. So I won't douse it again. I'll just now for the larger pieces then, like of her dress, of her shawl, then you can go ahead and use the larger detail size brush. This is a 4. This one is a 3. And this one is a 7000 round. It's very small, like a designed for points, really. I'm going to go ahead and use this same shade down below on her base here, because I'm going to bring that up to a lighter color, but I want to start a little darker, just like with her hair. So I'm not too worried about the base itself just yet. I am going to finish the base with some modeling products later, so right now I'm just going to do the figure itself. And as I'm going, one thing to kind of think about, whether you're doing a figure like this one or any kind of model painting, or even, I would imagine, some like wood painting or toy painting, you want to develop a way of holding your hands so that your brush stays steady, and that helps you get the paint where you need it to go. So for this is a little different for me because I'm used to using slightly smaller bases. This nice thick base is pretty good actually for holding things steady. What you want to do though is you kind of want to cup your two hands together so that when you are painting, you're sort of resting the part of your painting hand on your other hand so that it kind of looks like this. And so you're not taking really broad brush strokes because you don't have to, and you can really control where that paint goes. Very important with such a small item that you're dealing with. It also helps your hands to rest a little bit. And anytime that you have to, just stop, point your brush, you know, if that's like against the tip of your paint pot, your finger, just got to keep that brush in good shape. It's very important when you clean your brushes at the end that you shape them as well when they're wet, so that you can keep that nice sharp tip, which is vital. Here again is where it's really nice to be able to tilt your figure up and down. You can get underneath those awkward spots. Another nice thing about acrylic paint, it dries rather quickly, especially at the level that you use it for miniature painting. So you don't want to be putting layers of paint, of wet paint over itself, unless you're blending. But, so that's the downside. Sometimes you do have to let the paint dry. But on the plus side, you don't have to wait that long for the paint to dry. And then I gotta fix what I just fixed. This is a hobby for the detail-oriented, I must say. Moving on to Dove Gray. Just a sheer gray for the apron. So, see where she's coming along? She's got a little bit of Belle from Beauty and the Beast about her, in my mind, right now. I don't know whether that'll stay or not. Okay, the top layer for the cloak, I may start quite dark. In fact, let's start with black. Again, this is mostly so that I can build up as I go later with the other colors. I'm also going to do her pouches in black so that I can come back around with a stronger color. And her little belt as well. And since this particular part is a smaller detail, I'm going to keep using my smaller brush. And with these smaller detail brushes, you can push the paint into the crevices a little bit if you need to. Not highly recommended, but again, the goal is to have your colors nice and clean and no white spots. At least not right now. And of course, if you feel like you can't pick out the detail, always just go for your next smaller brush. If you're getting nervous, as I do sometimes. All right. I have a little bit of cleaning up to do, but for the most part, her base is finished. And there you go. Next time we will take a look at the next layer up, how to choose the colors and blend them. I hope you enjoyed watching me paint this little elf, and I'll see you next week.